Hello and welcome to episode 75 of Glitch Report. My name is GnittWitt. Thank you so much for stopping by, saying hi, kicking it with me today on the stream live over at twitch.tv/GnittWitt, GnittWitt. Thank you so much for checking out the YouTube version of the show. And for those listening, the ears only experience on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. I appreciate you hanging out with me today, whatever day that may be, wherever you may be. So thank you for joining me today. It's December, y'all. This is the last episode of the show before Christmas, and we can finally experience the holidays after what feels like months and months of threats of, hey, you're gonna have yourself a Merry Christmas, you're gonna have yourself a happy holidays, whatever that may be. And it's like, okay, fine, let me do it, let me do the thing. We've been preparing all this time, let me just do the thing. So that's nice. It's also for what's getting into like the mid late part of December, it's incredibly mild around these parts. I'm in shorts in this room where I record. I also have a fan on in the back. I don't know if you can hear that fan or not. If you can't, that means I've done a good job setting up my audio microphone thingies for the show. But it's been warm, it's been mild. I don't like it. I hope you like global warming, because this is where we're at, your mild winters and whatnot. But maybe it's mild because things are heating up. We got, the Epic Games Store sale going on now. We also have the Steam winter sale just started earlier this morning at like 10 a.m. And of course, if you're on, PlayStation, Xbox, Microsoft is Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, or Xbox, they probably have their sales going on. I know I was just looking at the PlayStation sale that's going on right now. Got some good deals on PlayStation, some good deals to be had. I mean, of course, it seems like, people are kind of triggered, or not triggered, but wired to expect deals around this time of the year for digital games, right? And my only thing with buying digital games is like, I wish there was an easier way to gift them to people. I did just send a friend of mine a Steam game. I bought it on Steam, and I sent it to them through their Steam user profile. So they got themselves a brand new PC game as kind of an early Christmas present. But I wish I could do that on Xbox. I wish I could do that on PlayStation, Nintendo, which is like, gift things to people. Like, I have all of these accounts. I have nothing against, signing in and sending somebody a gift, but it'd be nice if I could send someone a PlayStation, store gift. I wish I could send somebody an Xbox gift. Things like that would be nice, especially in a world where, it's nice to get like gift cards and stuff like that. Like, don't get me wrong, gift cards are very, very helpful. And oftentimes you might be getting a gift card and then you're like, oh, I'm going to run down to the Best Buy. Well, first of all, who's running to Best Buys these days when you can instead just go online? But, this gift card that I received for the holidays is aligned with, their Boxing Day sale or their Black Friday sale or whatever. So gift cards are definitely helpful. But like, if you know already what somebody wants and it is on sale as a digital game, it'd be nice to be able to send that to people instead of just giving them a gift card and stuff like that, which again, I have nothing against gift cards. Lord knows I will spend some money via a gift card. I sent somebody a gift on Steam, and I'm looking at the name of it right now, and it's not in English. And I don't know if that was if I meant to do that. If I don't know if that game is in English. Oh, I don't know what the hell's going on here. Steam. Oh, why is Steam in Big Picture? This is what I get for fucking with Big Picture. How do I get out of... Oh, all these noises. Help me, somebody. How do I get out of Steam Big Picture mode? General. Oh, this is bad. Can I just hit the X button? X button doesn't work. How do I... Settings. No. I don't want Steam Big Picture. Oh. I feel like mistakes were made. Oh, here we go. Exit big picture mode. Okay. Thank you, Steam. I appreciate it. Boy, this is a terrible podcast already as I try to fuck with Steam big picture mode. Here's what I wanted. Store preferences? No, view my wallet. See account details. Here we go. Purchase history. This game does not show up in English. Oh, here we go. Here's the name of the game. I bought this. This is like an anime game. It's like kind of a joke gift, but I mean, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I know some people will buy like, one of these sexy anime games on PlayStation or Steam or something like that because whatever, it was like $5 or whatever. This game was a lot more than $5, but I bought The Arrogant Kaiju Princess and the Detective Servant. And I don't know if you know this about Steam, but you can adjust like the preferences for the types of games that you see on Steam. So you can say that, I don't want to see anime games, or I don't want to see games with lots of nudity, or whatever the case may be. I don't want to see hentai, for example. And in this case, this game is all of the things that I don't want to see on my Steam profile. In fact, I had to manually look up this. Oh yeah, there's just. I'm going to close this. So that's just full on naked anime boning. That's just the anime sex. So that's great. I hope the person who I bought that for enjoys it. It was on their wish list. They were asking for it in seemingly more ways than one. But I'm happy to spread the Christmas cheer, even if it is through anime fucking. We have some news. We have a huge amount of news. You would have thought that as we get close to the end of the year, that the news stories would kind of slow down a little bit. And, partially like they have, but some of this news is just kind of out of people's control to a large extent. Coming up on the show today, we are going to talk about the Naughty Dog canceling The Last of Us Online, A24 partnering with Kojima Productions, PS5 sales data, PlayStation Store news updates, Embracer Group, as always, the Game Awards, the worst reviewed games on Metacritic, and so much more. But first and foremost, let's talk about the Insomniac leak. Well, it's not even a leak, it's more of a hack. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to be covering a lot of this news story because a lot of this news story features people's personal information, private information, passport photos, and a lot of other stuff. But, let's kind of get into it. Insomniac and the Insomniac Games, the studio owned by Sony, Insomniac Games, makers of Ratchet and Clank, and, who can forget, what the fuck was that game? Overkill? Overdrive. What? So there was Sunset Overdrive, but I'm also thinking of that shooter they did. It doesn't matter. Like, fact checking ruins podcast. Just know that Insomniac has made a variety of games, best known for these Marvel Spider-Man games and Ratchet and Clank. Now, they were hacked. The company was hacked. And this hacker group released more than 1.3 million stolen files, including unannounced game info. The hacking group threatened to publish the files a week ago if they weren't paid. This is, of course, coming from Video Games Chronicles. Shout out to Video Games Chronicles. I'm not even going to say the name of the hacker group, but last week, a ransomware group threatened to release sensitive data about the company, its employees, and its upcoming games if it wasn't paid for the data. It then published data online, which appeared to corroborate its claims that it had successfully hacked the Sony-owned studio, including an annotated screenshot from Insomniac's upcoming Wolverine game. The group then threatened to publish the stolen data within 7 days, but first it offered it for auction with a starting price of 50 bitcoins, which is about $2 million. Now, according to Cyber Daily, the hacker group has followed through with its threat and posted more than 1.3 million files, totaling 1.67 terabytes to its darknet site. Around 98% of its stolen data has allegedly been released, with the group claiming that not sold data was uploaded, implying that the remaining 2% may have been sold to someone. Social media users have already started downloading and sifting through the files, which appears to include an unprecedented amount of information and assets for Insomniac's future projects, including the upcoming Wolverine game, a publishing agreement with Marvel that promises future games, and internal HR documents, budgets, and more. This kind of does tie into Sony trying to encourage some of its studios to cut down on costs, the way that it encouraged Bungie to get its studios to cut down on costs as well. The stolen documents also include information on unannounced games stretching as far as 10 years. So we know that Marvel Spider-Man 2 is done. They might be working on DLC. But the other games that seem to be, coming down in the next 10 years beyond just Wolverine are more Spider-Man games, potentially a Venom game, and also leading up to an X-Men game. So if you are a fan of not playing Ratchet and Clank games from Insomniac, looks like Insomniac is the Sony Marvel studio going forward, at least for the next 10 years as well. The hacker group's initial threat last week appeared to include evidence that it had acquired employee passport scans, a personal document related to Spider-Man actor Yuri Lowenthal, internal emails, and confidential documents. It's not clear how much of this confidential information has been included in the hack, nor is it clear if any of it was part of the section that may have been sold to another party. I'm gonna say this. If you are a hacker, or you are a hacking group that has the capability of penetrating the security of a conglomerate like Sony, like PlayStation, I think it's worth noting that, listen, I played Cyberpunk this year, so I know all about. I understand people want to take down the man. They want to take down these big companies and so on and so forth. But if you are a hacker with this type of power and influence, perhaps you could use that power for good. You could use that power to take down and expose some of the actual corruption that exists within this world. Take down the politicians. Take down the war criminals, the abusers of the world, right? Because this I think is incredibly unfortunate. This is not me saying that, oh, you're not leave the game companies alone. That's I'm not even gonna go there with that. I'm just saying that, if you can pull off this type of heist, think about the actual good that you could do for this world, taking down the corrupt and evil that truly exists within this world. Because having Insomniac employee passports around, yeah, you know what? It might net you a couple of bucks, couple of bitcoins, whatever, on the dark web. But there's far more shit going on in this world that deserves to be exposed on the level of this Insomniac hack, or potentially greater, right? This is not me saying, oh, I have political enemies that I want taken down. I have, social causes that I want to see, influenced by hacks and cyber attacks and stuff like that. I'm just saying that, if you are this good at doing this, imagine if you put those powers to good, and I hate to quote Spider-Man in the wake of this Insomniac hack, but with great power comes great responsibility. And if you were that good at doing cyber crimes, perhaps you could be more of a cyber Robin Hood than anything else. So I'm not going to go too much further into this Insomniac stuff. We know that more Spider-Man is on the way. Wolverine is on the way, and Wolverine seems to be leading up to a X-Men game as well, potentially a Venom game down the world, potentially, at some point during this process, and potentially a, Spider-Verse game, right? Perhaps a Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse style game as well, from your folks, your friends, the good folks at Insomniac. I would really like to see a Ratchet and Clank game. I know I just bought that new Ratchet and Clank game. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but I love me some Ratchet and Clank. I will play as much Ratchet and Clank as they give me, except for All for One. All for One is not a good game. And then the other thing to note is that there was kind of some leaks about with this hack in regards to PC games and budgets and stuff like that. Again, I'm not going to go too deep into that stuff because it's confidential. I would just like to say that, like, in terms of budgets for games, like, I think they were floating around like $300 million for Spider-Man 2. Like the cost to make Spider-Man 2 was like somewhere in the $300 million range. I would just like to have that data publicly known. Like, I would like to know, what that game made in terms of sales data, accurate sales data. And I would like to see what that budget was, right? Like, we know how much Willy Wonka made at the box office in connection with what its budget was. I would like to know that data for games as well. I don't think this hack is going to change these companies' minds in terms of the way they present that data, but it would still be nice to at least have some of that data going forward. To be honest, the idea that Insomniac is going to make, more Marvel games for 10 years, I don't fucking care. It's fine. It is what it is, right? Like, to me, I'm not necessarily excited about the bigger picture of what Insomniac is going to be working on for 10 years. To me, it is more the individual stuff, right? And obviously, they're going to show Wolverine when it's ready. For God's sakes, they just shipped Spider-Man 2 like a couple of months ago. So for me, like, I'll believe it when I see it, and I'll get excited or not get excited when they actually have something to show. But you're not going to see me jumping up and down being like, oh my God, I can't believe this is all leading to an X-Men game. Finally, I can play as Sabretooth. Finally, I can play as Jean Grey. I'm trying to think of X-Men characters. Iceman. Finally, give me Iceman DLC. Is Iceman going to be part of the season pass? Like, okay, great. We'll play an X-Men game. Sure, I bet that X-Men game will look very nice. I bet that X-Men game will probably be cool. It'd be cool to have a good X-Men game that's not tied to the movies. We'll find out. Last week, I got a new mug, and this mug is amazing because it's got a lid on it, and it's made out of, like, steel or something. I won't show the mug on camera because there's a logo on it that I don't want to expose to the world. But it's nice because it keeps the coffee hot, so we can probably sip on coffee throughout the rest of the stream today. So that's fun. That's nice. And speaking of things that are nice, Christmas came early for the gamers of the world. Finally, we can all say goodbye to Bobby Kotick. Bobby Kotick is leaving Activision Blizzard. He's leaving the company on December 29th. Bobby Kotick has had a hell of a run in the games industry, for better or for worse. Bobby Kotick, if you don't know, is the CEO, was soon to be former CEO of Activision Blizzard. And I mean, I don't like Bobby Kotick. I don't like what he, did with Activision Blizzard over the years. I don't like what he represents in the game industry. I don't like what he represents in capitalism. I just don't like Bobby Kotick, right? One of the things that Bobby Kotick did is he was the man who came from the packaged food industry. He was the man who had experience in groceries, packaged foods, that sort of thing. And his philosophy, was to take what he learned in the packaged food industry and apply it to something like Activision's game, which is why, Call of Duty is like the Oreo or the Mountain Dew of video games, right? It is as mainstream can get without necessarily being something like Grand Theft Auto. And it comes out every year at around the same time and at the same cadence and for the most part, give or take, the same level of quality, but just with a slightly different flavoring applied to it. This one's World War II. This one, you're in outer space. This one is modern day. This one is, Cold War. This one is, whatever. This is, alternative history, Cold War, whatever the fuck, right? The same way that, like, you go into a store now and you're like, okay, I want some Oreos. Do I want mint chocolate Oreos? Do I want birthday cake Oreos? Do I want chocolate fudge Oreos? Do I want, peanut butter Oreos? Do I want s'moreos? So it's s'mores and Oreos combined. Do I want cinnamon bun Oreos? Do I want fucking key lime pie Oreos? Do I want lemon meringue pies? And I could go on and on and on, right? That was kind of Bobby Kotick's approach to games. Now, Kotick did send an email out to employees, kind of, this is an internal memo on Wednesday, saying, extraordinary people. Over the years, my passion for video games has often attributed to Pitfall, River Raid, and Kaboom. I love those Atari 2600 games, but the games that first captured my imagination was Mystery House, developed by Roberta and Ken Williams. I played it on a borrowed Apple II night after night while in college at the University of Michigan. Mystery House was a text adventure game with some primitive sprite-based graphics. Fittingly, we now own Mystery House and the company that published it, Sierra Online. The world in which the game was played was largely left to the player's imagination. I imagined rich, vast worlds with all sorts of interactive, animated life that would enable players to fulfill their varied aspirations, all in a simulated universe that offered unlimited possibilities for challenge, connection, and fun. 40 years later, as my last day leading this company inches closer, I marvel at how far talented people at our company have come toward realizing the great potential of games. You have transformed a hobbyist form of entertainment into the world's most engaging medium. It has been the privilege of my lifetime to work alongside you as we broaden the appeal of games. Perhaps the most important part of my job has been to help bring talented people together, provide the best resources possible, and foster an environment that encourages aspiration, creativity, and unwavering commitment. I cannot adequately express the pride I have in the people who continue to contribute to our success and all those who have helped throughout my 32 years leading this company. We are now part of the world's most admired company. This isn't an accident. It goes on. Phil Spencer has appreciated the magic of ABK for decades. When he approached Brian and me 2 years ago and proposed acquiring the company, it was immediately obvious that the combination of our businesses would enable us to continue to lead as the list of capable, well-sourced competitors grow. Phil shares our values and recognizes our talent. He is passionate about our games and the talent and the people who make them. He has bold ambition. As we move into our next exciting chapter, you could not be in better hands. I will always be profoundly grateful to the people who contribute tirelessly to building this company, and I am confident you will keep aspiring joy and uniting people through the power of play. With gratitude and appreciation, Bobby Kotick. Some of what Bobby Kotick says has been disputed, refuted. Things like an environment that encourages inspiration, creativity, and unwavering commitment to excellence. This company did just ship Modern Warfare 3, which is not an excellent game. And this is not the first time Call of Duty has been less than an excellent game. This is also the same company that put out Overwatch 2, a game that is lacking in inspiration, creativity, and excellence. Bringing talented people together. This is a company that has faced multiple allegations in regards of misconduct in a variety of ways, abuse, misconduct, corruption, you name it. So obviously, Bobby Kotick is going to spin his history with the company as brightly as possible. But the fact is that Bobby Kotick, for lack of a better word, brought Activision Blizzard to its knees through his management style, through his terrible ideas and his awful leadership, and put Activision Blizzard in a position to be bought by Microsoft. Maybe that was his plan all along. Down the road, I don't know. I really could not give less of a shit about a person like Bobby Kotick playing Atari 2600 games. There's nothing wrong with the Atari 2600 games. Don't get me wrong. Pitfall, River Raid, Kaboom, Mystery House, banger of games, whatever. I don't really give a fuck about Bobby Kotick loving video games because the way he ran that company did not come across as somebody who loved video games or the game industry. So his statement reads incredibly hollow to me. And all I can say is that while Phil Spencer is not perfect and the leadership at Xbox is not perfect and Microsoft in general is not perfect, my hope is that with the shuffling of these power players in Microsoft, that Activision can be in a better position to make more than just Call of Duty. I'm not saying they need to go make a fucking Mystery House reboot or anything like that. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say, oh, they should work on, fucking where's my sequel to Kaboom or whatever. I'm not out here saying that, but I'm just saying that, like, if they can get their, allegations of abuse and mistreatment, to a point of non-existence, if they can start to treat their people with respect and decency and take care of the people that are making these, world-class games, as Bobby Kotick says, like, yeah, perhaps like Activision will not just become a former company within Microsoft, and can instead be, its own brand, its own whatever within the Microsoft family, right? Because you can very imagine a scenario where, oh, we don't use the Activision Blizzard name anymore. Like, everything is just called Microsoft. Everything's just called this. Everything's just called that. And yeah, we did put out a sequel to Pitfall or, whatever, but we don't really call it that anymore because the Activision name has been just, dragged through the mud to the point where it's irredeemable, right? And I suspect that if Microsoft had not come and stepped in to make this purchase, that we might be saying that about Activision. No thanks, of course, to Bobby Kotick. Let's move on. Naughty Dog. You might know Naughty Dog as one of the best single-player AAA developers in the world. Best known for Uncharted, best known for Last of Us. Pretty sure they also did Way of the Warrior. Why am I looking this up? Why am I? Yeah, who can forget that hit Naughty Dog game, Way of the Warrior, among other things. Anyways, that was on the 3DO. Point is that Naughty Dog for being, master storytellers and single player action adventure games. You don't necessarily know them for being, online live service companies. And in fairness, they have put out multiple games with multiplayer in them, going as far back as something like Uncharted 2. 3, 4, The Last of Us had its multiplayer mode, but none of it ever felt like, a live service game the way we think about Destiny 2 or, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League or Anthem or whatever. The list goes on. You don't really know them as that. You know them as people who include multiplayer components in their single player games, but they're best known for being single player games. Which is why it always seemed like a terrible idea for Naughty Dog to make a live service, online focused multiplayer shooter like The Last of Us Online. It always seemed like a terrible idea immediately from inception. Well, the good news is they have realized that this was a terrible idea. It took them way too long, in my opinion. I'm going to go into the variety of ways that it was a bad idea in just a moment, but they have now realized that. In a statement on its website, the developer said, "We realize many of you have been anticipating news around the project that we've been calling The Last of Us Online. There's no easy way to say this. We've made the incredibly difficult decision to stop development on that game. We know this news will be tough for many, especially our dedicated Last of Us factions community who have been following our multiplayer ambitions ardently. We're equally crushed at the studio as we were looking forward to putting it in your hands. We wanted to share with you some background of how we came to this decision. Now, Sony reportedly scaled back the size of Naughty Dog's The Last of Us multiplayer game earlier this year, following an evaluation by the platform holder and newly acquired Bungie. Now, according to Bloomberg, this is a Bloomberg report in May, the number of people working on the project had been reduced partially as a result of Destiny Studios' feedback as to its quality and viability. Bungie raised questions about The Last of Us multiplayer's project ability to keep players engaged for a long period of time, which led to the reassessment. Shortly before the Bloomberg's reported publication in May, Naughty Dog seemingly preempted the story with a social media statement in which it indicated The Last of Us multiplayer game would require more time for development. Now, today's statement confirming the cancellation continues. The multiplayer team has been in pre-production with this game since we were working on The Last of Us Part 2, crafting an experience we felt was unique and had tremendous potential. As the multiplayer team iterated on their concept for The Last of Us Online, during this time, their vision crystallized, the gameplay got more refined and satisfying. And we were enthusiastic about the direction in which we were headed. In ramping up to full production, the massive scope of our ambition became clear. To release and support The Last of Us Online, we'd have to put our to release and support The Last of Us Online, we'd have to put all of our studio resources behind supporting post-launch content for years to come, severely impacting development on future single-player games. And this is what I mean when I say this is terrible. Like, at no point did the power players, the leadership, the decision makers in this process, at no point did the most important people on this project have their full heart and soul into this project. Now, of course, you work for a living. Maybe you don't always give a shit about the things that you do at work, even if you make video games for a living. And in which case, I'm not even going to criticize you for doing so, because work is work is work is work. You might like it, you might not, you might love it, you might hate it. But the point is, it is still work. That being said, when you are signing up for a project that's going to take, the next, 5, 7, 8 years of your life, you might want to be invested emotionally into what that project is. And when it comes to multiplayer live service games, you spend, I don't know, anywhere from 3 to 5 years, however long it takes getting that game out the door. And then you spend probably an equal amount of time, if not longer, supporting that game with post-launch content, with new maps, with new seasons, with new weapons, with new skins, with new gameplay, with new story, depending on what type of game it is. Is it purely multiplayer? Is there single player, story-based elements to it as well? You don't just ship that game. You spend probably majority of the entire development time on that game. From the moment it's incepted, the majority of the time is probably going to be spent updating that game with more content. So the idea that they had spent all this time working on this game since they started working on Last of Us Part 2, for them to say, oh, well, it's just not going to happen. What a waste of time. What a waste of resources. What a waste of time. Right? Now, I'm going to tell you right now that a bigger waste of time and resources would have been to get this game out the door. I will say that, hand up. A bigger waste of time would have actually been to finish this game. But it nearly as big of a waste of time was the conception of this to begin with, because this is not playing to the strengths of Naughty Dog as a developer. This is not playing, to the strengths of The Last of Us, right? People might like the factions multiplayer in Last of Us. People might like the idea of sneaking up to another guy played by a human and just, slitting his throat with a rusty screw or whatever the fuck you do in Last of Us multiplayer games, stabbing somebody with a beer bottle, with a whatever. Like, sure, you murdered a man with some broken glass. Good for you. But that's not what people know and love about The Last of Us. In fact, I think it should have been pretty obvious if we go back just a little bit earlier this year. I think the reception to that TV show should have let Naughty Dog, the Last of Us team, and Sony know that what people really like about The Last of Us is the story, right? Nobody sitting around watching that HBO TV show was like, oh, maybe it'd be fun if I could run around killing other humans in without any story context whatsoever. Like, no, like, so I'm incredibly disappointed in Naughty Dog and Sony for their foolish ambitions when it comes to live service games. Let's not even get, talking about the fact that live service games are slowly dying and are just, um, completely failing left, right, and center when it comes to some ambitious projects, right? This isn't too dissimilar to what Remedy was talking about when they said, yeah, we're gonna make a multiplayer control game. We're gonna make it a free to play game, but the problem with making a free to play game is the monetization and the expectations around developing post launch content for a free to play game. So we've decided that when we put out that multiplayer game based on Control, we will sell it, and maybe we can have a better idea of how we're going to manage expectations for what post-launch content looks like for a Control game. Now, I don't know if The Last of Us multiplayer, The Last of Us Online, was going to be a free-to-play game, if it was going to be, a pay for it and then, buy seasons and stuff. But like, what would you want? Like even if you like The Last of Us multiplayer, what more could they do to that game that would keep you engaged? If you were sitting around playing Call of Duty, The Division, Destiny, Fortnite, fucking whatever, what could they and you liked The Last of Us, what could they possibly do with a multiplayer mode that would get you to play it for hundreds of hours? Oh, well, they just put out their season 3 update for The Last of Us, and now I can play as Nathan Drake. All I have to do is spend $20 on the battle pass, and then I can run around as Nathan Drake in The Last of Us Online, and I can slit other Nathan Drake's throats. Or, I ranked up the battle pass to level 100, and now I can play as Sully. Or now I can play as Joel, but he's got a tuxedo on. Or fucking, it's Joel in a Crash Bandicoot outfit. Or, we put Lara Croft in this game. Or now there's like a ray gun, not Ronald Reagan, but a ray gun that we can use to zap enemies or whatever. Like, what the fuck would they do with The Last of Us? So I'm disappointed. I'm glad to see this terrible idea come to an end, but I am disappointed that they didn't realize what they were getting themselves into as soon as they started development. Everyone thinks they can make a live service game. Everyone thinks they can make a Destiny 2 until they realize that they can't. There's more to the statement. I just got so fired up that I had to interrupt it. Naughty Dog says, so we had two paths in front of us: become a solely live service game studio, or continue to focus on single player narrative games that have defined Naughty Dog's heritage. We are immensely proud of everyone at the studio that touched this project. The learnings and investments in technology from this game will carry into how we develop our projects and will be invaluable in the direction we are headed as a studio. We have more than one ambitious, this is the fun part. All right. We have more than one ambitious brand new single player game that we're working on here at Naughty Dog, and we cannot wait to share more about what comes next when we're ready. Until then, we're incredibly thankful to our community for your support throughout the years. Yeah, whatever. So, hey, maybe we're going to get The Last of Us Part 3, or maybe we're going to get, I don't know, Uncharted 5. And I know that sounds cynical. GnittWitt, all you're saying is sequels to games. What if Naughty Dog made an original brand new game? There's no money to be made in original ideas anymore. There's no money to be made in, new IPs and brand new stories and projects, right? They'll just keep fucking milking The Last of Us and Uncharted until they just shut down Naughty Dog. Well, that's a cynical way of looking at it, but we live in a cynical world, and I'm just at times a mirror, if not a I'm sometimes the mirror, sometimes I'm the reflection in the mirror. That's all I'm saying. Not to get too deep. That being said, I look forward to whatever Naughty Dog is working on next. I imagine that after that Last of Us Part 2 remastered comes out on PS5, it'll eventually make its way to PC. Hopefully, it isn't a flaming piece of shit the way that the Last of Us Part 1 remastered was on PC, but who knows? I will say that, like, this is maybe a weird kind of an opinion to have, but with the exception of the TV show, which is very good, that HBO TV show, very good, thumbs up. Siskel and Ebert, 2 thumbs up. I kind of don't care about The Last of Us. Like, it's been so much of the same thing. And I haven't even played The Last of Us Part 2, and I'm already like kind of over The Last of Us Part 2, right? I know it sounds weird, but like Naughty Dog just hasn't necessarily given me much of a reason to care about The Last of Us. Now you could argue, GnittWitt, they already put out 2 games and a great TV show. What more do you want? I don't know, like, to not be reminded of The Last of Us. Like, if distance makes the heart grow fonder, the fact that I have to think about The Last of Us every 3 to 4 months every year for the last like 10 years, I'm just kind of Last of Us is out a little bit. Like, yeah, maybe I'll check out season 2 of that TV show. Maybe I'll check out that PS5 remastered version when it comes to PC. Maybe I'll go back and actually play the remastered of Part 1 on PC. I don't know, but like, I just Last of Us this, Last of Us that. And that didn't always used to be the case with Naughty Dog. But in fairness, before that, it was just Uncharted this, Uncharted that. But I liked Uncharted more than I liked Last of Us. I even, didn't mind that Last of Us multiplayer. Not that I'm asking for a fucking live service Uncharted game. That would be bad too. But yeah, I'd like to see Naughty Dog do something different. I would like to see Naughty Dog put out a game. I mean, it's only been like 3 years or whatever since their last game came out, but it would be nice to see Naughty Dog, put out a new game. That'd be cool. Wouldn't that be nice? We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue with news. So stick around. Glitch Report ain't going nowhere. Welcome back to Glitch Report. I continue to be your host, GnittWitt. I have not gone anywhere. I am back to bring you more news from the video game world. This is kind of a quick one. A24, you might know that company for producing such films as Everything Everywhere All at Once, Talk to Me, Uncut Gems, Midsummer, Lady Bird, Moonlight, and of course that new Von Erichs movie, The Iron Claw. A24, a movie production company, has partnered with Kojima Productions for a live action Death Stranding movie. They say we are creating a Death Stranding universe that has never been seen before, according to Hideo Kojima. Now, of course, Death Stranding 2 was announced last December. The studio has confirmed that a Death Stranding film was in development, though we are now finding out a little bit more about it. Kojima Productions says the film promises to delve into the mysteries surrounding the apocalyptic event called the Death Stranding, which blurred the lines between life and death and brought forth nightmarish creatures into a world on the brink of collapse. Rather than making a big blockbuster movie with famous actors and flashy explosions, Kojima said he was aiming for a more art house approach, which is kind of a generous way of describing what Death Stranding 1, the video game, is, I guess, in some weird way. Despite it having a large budget, it comes across more as an art house game than anything else. A24 was born into this world about 10 years ago. Their presence is singular within the industry. They are like no other, Kojima said in a statement released today. Today, of course, being December 14th. This is a little bit old, but we're covering it anyways. The films they are delivering to the world are high in quality and very innovative. Now, look, I don't know if I'm going to necessarily come out here and say that like, oh, A24 is like the greatest, film production company of all time or something like that. I don't know if I'd, anyways, they've done a large number of well-regarded films, some of which I have seen, some of which I have not. Something called Dix the Musical. I don't know. Midsummer is a good movie as well. So anyways, they've done some good movies, and they seem to have their heart in the right place, and perhaps their ambition aligned as they go about trying to produce this live action Death Stranding movie with Kojima. PS5 has been selling like hotcakes, and when I say hotcakes, I mean it is blowing Xbox Series X and S out of the water. Now, this is an estimate from a research firm that says that PS5 has outsold Xbox Series X and S 3-1 in 2023. Ampere Analysis told the Financial Times that sales of Sony's consoles were up about 65% to 22.5 million units this year. In comparison, annual Xbox Series X and S sales reportedly declined by 15% to 7.6 million, while sales of Nintendo's aging Switch console fell by 18% to 16.4 million. The data was provided to coincide with Sony's announcement that PS5 had cleared 50 million units since launching in November 2020. That is only 1 week slower than the PlayStation 4, despite having significant COVID-related supply chain issues, which have now been overcome. The company is aiming to ship 25 million PS5s during its current fiscal year ending in March 2024. If achieved, it would beat a 25-year-old console sales record when the original PlayStation shipped 22.6 million units over a 12-month period. It is very obvious that the PlayStation 5 is on fire. It is the hottest thing in gaming. I get it. Nothing wrong with that. It is unfortunate that Microsoft is nowhere close to being at the same level as PlayStation when it comes to sales of the Xbox Series X and S. Like, it's not even close. Not even close. So when you hear these news stories that, oh, well, maybe by 2026, Xbox will have its new console out, all of a sudden it starts to make sense, right? Right? Like, you can only get destroyed in the marketplace for so long, with your competitor outselling you 3-1 before you decide, fuck it, we got to do a reset button and we got to do it right now. Which means a couple of things. Let's get into this news story. I'm actually going to jump ahead for a moment to another news story. PS5 Pro. It's looking like it could launch in 2024 with some various tech upgrades to go along with it. Now, this is coming from Giant Bomb reporter Jeff Grubb. Said that he's been able to corroborate claims that Sony is working on a mid-generation PS5 upgrade. That PS5 leak is almost certainly real based on what I've heard now, and obviously I'm not the only one out there saying that, but I can throw my confirm into the ring for everybody. The system is probably coming out in September of 2024, Grubb suggested. The current specs are based on a range of possibilities because they've not actually fully dialed that in. The big thing here, like the big feature that this system will support, is Sony's own proprietary DLSS-like solution, where they can use their own machine learning to improve images so they can run things at a really high resolution and a really high frame rate. And they would include their own hardware in the PS5 Pro to do this. That's where like 2 times the hardware ray tracing acceleration comes into place, but they would be able to do even more than just better hardware ray tracing. So yeah, this thing is probably happening. Now, DLSS stands for Deep Learning Super Sampling, which is a feature exclusive to NVIDIA graphics cards. I own an NVIDIA graphics card. On PC, it works by using AI to upscale the resolution of games, effectively allowing developers to achieve higher graphical settings and better frame rate on weaker hardware. So what happens is, I'll give you an example. I'm playing Alan Wake 2, and I have a 1080p monitor. Like the game, the monitor that I play games on is a 1080p monitor, and it has 144 hertz, which means that games, if they can achieve those frame rates, will run at 144 frames per second, that I can visibly see, right? Now, on PC, you have a lot of graphics options, right? In terms of, do you want to play at 1080p? Do you want to play at 4K resolution if you have a 4K monitor? Do you want to play at 1440p, somewhere in between? Are you playing on a laptop, 720p, whatever the case may be, right? And then the various graphic settings to go with it. And this is a very clear example that I'll try to give in terms of how DLSS works. I'm playing Alan Wake 2. DLSS allows me to render the base game at a lower resolution. So the resolution that that the game Alan Wake 2 is being rendered at is actually about 720p. Like I'm basically playing Alan Wake 2 at 720p. But through the power of AI and their super sampling, it then up-reses that base image from 720p up to 1080p on my monitor. So it doesn't look like I'm running the game at as low of a resolution as it actually is, which means that I get better frame rate and performances, and I can allow for things like ray tracing and higher frame rates on my machine, despite running that game at a lower resolution. That is potentially what, sort of technology Xbox and Sony, especially Sony, are going to be looking into with their next set of consoles. So potentially a scenario where God of War 3, whatever they call it, is being rendered natively on the console at 1080p and being up-resed, super sampled up to 4K, which will allow you to run it at a higher frame rate or with better ray tracing, better lighting, whatever, and not actually hit that performance. It's this fucking weird magic that NVIDIA has been able to unlock with PC graphics, but that's basically how it works. You render the game at a lower resolution and then up-res it through super sampling so that it doesn't look like you're running it at 720p on a 4K display or whatever the case may be. So a lot of that is tied to hardware. AI and all of that stuff needs to come from some sort of hardware. That's why old NVIDIA graphics cards do not, necessarily support stuff like a DLSS. But I don't know if this is necessarily going to be, like, when they say 2 times the hardware ray tracing, they're not saying that the console is going to be 2 times faster, 2 times more powerful than a PlayStation 5. If that was the case, they would call it a PlayStation 6. Duh. But what we're probably seeing is a scenario where maybe games can run at double the frame rate, regardless of resolution, or maybe games can get 2 times the better ray tracing, regardless of frame rate, regardless of resolution, right? I'm not saying that, like, side by side, everything is going to be 2 times better looking, but perhaps we can get, potentially double performance in some areas, whether it be resolution, frame rate, or ray tracing on a PS5 Pro compared to a PS5. Which means a couple of things. One, that the PS5 life cycle is going to be longer, right? Because if Xbox decides to hit the reset button on its Series X and S by releasing its true next generation console in 2026, and PS5 Pro only comes out in late 2024, we're looking at a potential scenario where Xbox is back in the game with the most powerful console on the market. But will it be enough? I think it really comes down to how the reception to the PS5 Pro is. And the reason why I say that is because if 50 million PlayStation 5 owners are furious about what you get with the PS5 Pro compared to the PS5, how the games look, what games support what features, what that parity, of features looks like, perhaps you end up burning and alienating a lot of PlayStation users potentially. I don't know, right? I'm just kind of spitballing here, right? So let's say Sony manages to piss off a large number of PlayStation users who feel like their PS5 is good enough for them, but not good enough for Sony. Maybe you see them jumping on to that next Xbox console, right? Because what's Xbox going to say? Well, we have a more powerful console. We also have Game Pass. And if you don't have a, backlog, or, if you don't have old Xbox games to run on, in terms of backwards compatibility, don't worry about it, because all you need to do is subscribe to Game Pass, which, hey, did you know Game Pass is better than PlayStation Plus? And you just get all of these old Xbox games that maybe you haven't had a chance to play, all our new Xbox games. You don't have to think about it the way you have to think about PlayStation Plus. Maybe that will be the sales pitch, which isn't too dissimilar to the sales pitch this time around for Xbox, right? Maybe they're saying, hey, you know what? Keep playing your Xbox, keep playing your PlayStation, but this is where your freedom of choice really starts to connect with what our offerings are by getting the next generation of Xbox. We'll see, right? But the other thing is that Xbox probably isn't going to advertise backwards compatibility, because the next Xbox is probably digital only, which also begs the question, is the PS5 Pro going to be digital only? It almost certainly can't, right? Because it's only going to be the hardcore people that buy a PlayStation 5 Pro, which means those hardcore people probably have discs lying around. Or do you have to go buy that disc drive separately? I don't know. I was looking at PlayStation 5 stuff throughout the holidays and this year and stuff like that. And, I was looking at the Spider-Man 2 bundle, the Slim and all that stuff. And I just thought, like, why would I buy this now? Why, it'd be one thing if you bought it, early in 2023, early 2022, whatever, right? It would also make a lot more sense if that was your only console. Like for me, I already have a PC, which means I get all of the Xbox stuff anyways. So to me, this is more like an extra, just a nice, just to treat myself, like, just splurge a little bit, just treat myself, whatever, right? And if I were to splurge on something like a PlayStation, why would I go buy a PS5 now, right? Let's assume that a PS5 Pro comes out in 2024, this time next year. I don't think there's much of a point of me buying a PS. Again, this is just me as a primarily PC player. Why would I do that? But the other thing is like, Nintendo, everyone forgets Nintendo. Nintendo is right up there selling Switches, and the Switch is old as hell. The Switch is like old enough to drink at this point. Not old enough to drink, but Switch is old, man. And it's still selling 16.4 million units, which then begs the question, well, is there a Switch coming out next year? Right? And for a lot of people who aren't PC gamers, that play a lot of video games, the perfect balance that they have kind of found with playing a wide variety of games is to get the Nintendo console, to play Nintendo's exclusive games, and then to play everything else and their exclusives, that the first party exclusives, on either an Xbox or a PlayStation. So if the Switch 2 is out before the PS5 Pro, how's that going to go? Very interesting. Unfortunately, it seems like these companies are making the purchasing of their game consoles and their subscriptions more and more complicated as the years go on. But for some, perhaps the PS5 Pro is something to look forward to. Real quick update. We talked about this a week or so ago. PlayStation will not be deleting the Warner Brothers Discovery TV shows after all. This is a report from GameIndustry.biz. The new licensing agreement between Warner Brothers and Sony will prevent the companies from removing those TV shows. So if you were looking to watch Mythbusters, Cake Boss, Deadliest Catch, American Chopper, and Idiot Abroad, Shark Week, How It's Made, Animal Planet Presents, and Street Outlaws on your PlayStation, the good news is that those aren't going away anytime soon because of the new deal signed between Warner Brothers and Sony. I really don't have anything else to say about that. Another quick news story is that Embracer has reportedly laid off folks at 3D Realms and Slipgate Ironworks. 3D Realms, if you don't know, are the original Duke Nukem people. Shake it, baby. I have a terrible Duke Nukem impression. I promise I will never do I got balls of steel. That's terrible. Why would I do that? That's just, that's a shame. Scott Miller, who founded 3D Realms and now heads up indie publisher Apogee Entertainment, said he's been told that at least half the developers at the Danish studio were being let go. Several sources have told me this bad news. Sorry to hear about another drop of the axe by Embracer Group, this time landing on Danish studio 3D Realms, he said on Twitter. A lot of folks, including core devs, will be looking for work as soon as possible. More and more sources have told me that at least half the company, Slipgate, Ironworks, and 3D Realms, is laid off. We're looking at hiring at least 2 or 3 people. As spotted by game developer, Miller's claims was corroborated by developer Michael Markey, who said that for Christmas this year, I got laid off. Embracer, which acquired 3D Realms and Slipgate Ironworks in 2021, announced in June it was implementing a restructuring program which would involve the closure of studios and cancellations of some projects. It has since shut down Saints Row developer Volition, Campfire Cabal, Free Radical Design, and has reportedly been put up for sale. Some have been put up for sale, including Gearbox, the Borderlands developer. Embracer Group has laid off over 900 people, including impacting studios such as Crystal Dynamics, Beandog, Zen Studios, and Fish Labs. I'm just glad that this is the last regular episode of this year, so I don't have to fucking talk about Embracer Group layoffs. The Game Awards. You might have seen them. You might not have. But if you didn't watch them, you are one of the very few people on this earth that did not watch the Game Awards. The Game Awards breaks viewership record yet again, up 15% from last year's show, marking its 9th consecutive year of growth with 118 million live streams. That is how they measure it, is through live stream viewership. Of course, it is not on regular TV. The Game Awards record viewership is an estimated 118 million live stream. The live stream figures here on the podcast, I'm just looking at them now. The Game Awards debuted in 2014 with 1.9 million viewers and has grown every year since then. 2014, 1.9. 2015, 2.3. 2016, 3.8. 2017, 11.5. 2018, 26.2. 2019, 45.2. 2020, 83, 2021, 85, 2022, 103, and 2023, 118 million viewers. We have some context here for you. I'm a sucker for context, as you might have guessed from this podcast. Over the last few years, the event appears to have established itself as the most watched award show in the world. Major film and TV award shows like the Oscars and the Emmys have traditionally been big business for broadcast TV networks, but their audience have fallen in recent years, partially due to the advent of streaming. The most watched Oscars broadcast of all time saw Titanic winning Best Picture in 1998, attracted 57 million viewers according to Entertainment Weekly. In comparison, this year's 95th Academy Awards drew an average audience of 18.7 million viewers, which is ahead of 2023's Grammys, which saw 22.5 million, and the Emmys, which saw 5 million. Now, according to Axios, the TV contract for the Emmys, Grammys, and Tonys all run through 2026, while the current deal for the Oscars ends in 2028. They spent a lot of money. See, that's the thing, right? They spent all this money on contracts, right? Instead of getting to the heart of what matters for these award shows, assuming you care about these award shows, which is get it out there to the people. What are people watching? They're watching YouTube. They're watching Twitch. They're watching, just naming a couple of other services, TikTok, Instagram, WeChat. They're watching this on a variety of platforms. They're not just sitting around the boob tube, watching cable, right? So to me, it makes perfect sense, right? Like, first of all, I don't think we fully appreciate just how popular video games are in the world. And you know what? Like, you're going to have a bunch of fucking old people who tell you, oh, the Game Awards not being on TV is its biggest detriment, right? Game Awards not being on ABC, Fox, CNN, wherever. I don't know why it'd be on CNN, but CBS, NBC, ABC, whatever. The fact that it's not on those, the Game Award, the Video Game Awards, first of all, the Game Awards were brought after the Video Game Awards stopped being a thing, and those are on Spike TV. And who the fuck is going to watch Spike TV over YouTube, over Instagram, over Twitch, over Twitter? Fucking nobody. So you do have some old people who will say, oh, well, it's not legit. But the fact is that this year the Game Awards doubled what the most popular Oscars broadcast of all time did. 118 million compared to 57 million. Now, I'm not saying that the Game Awards is perfect. I'm not saying the Game Awards is the most amazing thing on TV. But regardless of subject matter, I would say that the Oscars might be in a more enjoyable show because it takes its awards more seriously. But, I'm probably like 50-50 on which is the better show between the Oscars or the Game Awards. I know that sounds fucking ridiculous, but I think the Grammys are trash, and the Emmys are, TV's fine. Like, don't get me wrong, like TV's cool, but yeah, fucking crazy, huh? This year's Academy Awards, 18 million compared to 100 million more people watch the Game Awards this year than the Oscars. That is just some mind-bogglingly crazy numbers. Speaking of mind-boggling, Metacritic has announced its worst video games of 2023. They have a list here. They have a top 10 list. This is Metacritic's worst games of 2023. And what they have is they have the list, and they also have the number of what it got out of 100. At number 10, we have Gargoyles Remastered with 49. Number 9, I feel like David Letterman doing a top 10 list. Number 9, Loop 8, Summer of Gods with 49. Number 8, Gangs of Sherwood at 48. Number 7, Hellboy, Web of Weird with 47. And number 6, Crime Boss, Rockay City at 43. Number 5, Testament, The Order of High Human with 41. Number 4, Quantum Error with 40. Number 3, Gray Hill Incident at 38. Number 2, Flashback 2 with 35. And the number 1 Metacritic Worst Game of the Year, The Lord of the Rings Gollum. Unfortunately, Gollum could not be here today to present his award because he's been thrown into the fires of Mount Doom, where that game deserves to be thrown in as well. Congratulations to all the winners of Metacritic's Worst Game of the Year. You can look forward to more Game of the Year awards next week on this very podcast. I will be doing my Game of the Year 2023 awards. I will also have Worst Game, but of course, I didn't play any of those games, so I'm going to be picking from the worst games that I played this year. We're going to do this one more news story, and then we're going to take a quick break. Want to pay respects, shout out to the late, great James McCaffrey, best known for playing Max Payne. The voice actor, James McCaffrey, passed away at 65 after battling cancer. McCaffrey, who voiced Max Payne for all 3 games in the series and also provided his likeness for the character in Max Payne 3, reportedly died on Sunday surrounded by his friends and family following a battle with cancer. As well as his role as Max Payne, McCaffrey also starred in Remedy's Control, in which he played the Federal Bureau of Control Director Zachariah Trench. Most recently, McCaffrey provided the voice of Alex Casey in Alan Wake 2, though the game's physical appearance was portrayed by Remedy's creative director Sam Lake. Lake was also the model for Max Payne in the first game, bringing McCaffrey's involvement with Remedy full circle before his passing. McCaffrey also played Edward Carnaby in the 2008 reboot of Alone in the Dark. He also played one of the main roles in the firefighter drama Rescue Me, in which he played the ghost of a deceased firefighter who frequently visited the protagonist in his dreams. When I think about some of my favorite predominantly video game voice actors of all time, James McCaffrey is up there as one of my favorites. I remember like the first time hearing his voice in Max Payne and just being like, fuck, like this is up there with some of the best voice acting performances in anything, in any medium, in any sense of the of art, right? An absolute tragic loss. It also stings. I'm currently playing through Alan Wake 2, and to hear him in Alan Wake 2 is incredibly bittersweet because he gives an incredible performance in Alan Wake 2. He gives a great performance in Control, and of course I think everybody loves him in Max Payne, and of course it isn't just his performance, but the way he let Remedy have fun with his likeness and his voice and his characters, right? Like in Max Payne, he is the voice, but Sam Lake, Remedy creative director, is the player model, is the character that you see, right? Then you see him in Max Payne 3, which Max Payne 3 is done by Rockstar, but he does the voice and you see him, right? They completely changed the way Max Payne looks. Then in Control, you physically see him there in the game, right? But then for Alan Wake 2, he is doing the voice again, played by Sam Lake in the physical acting. So like James McCaffrey just always seemed like a tremendous talent from a voice acting perspective, but also his ability to, kind of mix and match the roles, especially in those Remedy games. I mean, for me, he's going to be synonymous with Remedy, with Alan Wake, with Control, Max Payne, all of that stuff. Will be deeply, deeply missed. Selfishly, I do hope that, you know, Remedy can continue to develop the Max Payne 1 and 2 remastered games without James McCaffrey. Perhaps they're just using all of the voice lines that he already had. I don't know. But he will definitely be dearly, dearly missed. One of my favorite voice actors of all time. We're going to take one final break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Alan Wake 2 with the games that I've been playing and so much more. So stick around. Glitch Report ain't going nowhere. Welcome back to the podcast. During the Epic Game Sale, I purchased Ratchet & Clank, God of War, and Alan Wake 2. Maybe I'll go back for second helpings as the sale goes on. But the Steam sale just launched. I'm going to have to take a look at what I can get on Steam. But from the games that I bought, been playing a lot of Alan Wake 2. I'm about... I'm going to say I'm about halfway through Alan Wake 2. It's definitely a lot longer of a game than Alan Wake 1. But the other thing about Alan Wake 2 is because you're playing as Saga Anderson, the FBI character, and Alan Wake, what they do with Alan Wake 2 is allow you to switch between the characters pretty liberally, I would say. You do have to go to certain spots in the environment to switch between the characters, but you can be halfway done an Alan Wake, level, for example, and then switch to Saga, who is, just about to start a new level. And the really cool thing about switching between these characters is that the story is coherent even as you switch between the two of them. It's this really the thing that I think strikes me, one of the things that strikes me the most about Alan Wake 2 is that its non-linear storytelling is both ambitious, evocative, and effective, right? I think the switching of back and forth between the characters really fits with the story that they're telling, but it also is very coherent. It just works. I can't quite describe it any other way other than it just works. One of the ways in which it works is Saga Anderson is the FBI character brought into the town of Bright Falls, which is basically the main environment, main town from Alan Wake 1, being sent in to investigate some brutal ritualistic murders that have been happening in the town. And Saga is, to put it like simply, Saga is the character for people who didn't play Alan Wake 1 or Control, because she is basically there to figure out what happened to Alan Wake, and how he ended up the way that he did in how he got to where he is in the second game. So for people who didn't play Alan Wake 1, they're probably going to get the most out of Saga's story in terms of catching them up to speed on what happened with Alan Wake 1 and to a lesser extent Control. That's not to say that like Alan Wake 2's story is primarily held up by the Alan Wake side of things. Like Alan Wake is very much trying to piece together what has happened to him and where things are going in the story just as much as Saga is. They just have very different ways of navigating the story from a gameplay perspective. And let me get into that, because that's one of the coolest things about this game. So if you've ever seen the like detective corkboard, the red string connecting the things together, that is a huge component of Saga's gameplay in Alan Wake 2. As you discover clues in the environment and you talk to people and things happen, you will get these pieces of evidence that you can go back to and connect the line, like literally connect the dots on your evidence board to piece together the story. Now, sometimes those pieces of evidence are purely optional, but there are some times where you cannot progress in the story until you've put these pieces of evidence together. Something that I initially found a little bit confusing at the start, because I'm like, what the fuck? I'm here to pick up this item. Like there's a moment in the game where I have to go to an environment and pick up this item, but I cannot, like the prompt will not show up to pick up this item. And it was because even though I had collected the evidence in the game, I had not put it together in the story, on the evidence board for Saga to kind of put together herself. So sometimes you feel like you have to kind of lead Saga to her inevitable conclusions. Other times the game is like, hey, you saw this thing, we all saw it, we know exactly what happened, let's move on with the story. You also have to do profiling as Saga, so there'll be different suspects and characters in the story where you have to dive a little bit deeper into their heads, do some psychological profiling to kind of figure out, and that might unlock, to figure out more about them. That might unlock additional key pieces of evidence to put on the evidence board, or it might unlock the ability to talk to people or access different areas of the environment, things like that. The way you access is that you just hit like the select button, and wherever you are in the environment, you immediately teleport to this alternate reality where Saga's in like this like lodge, like this like wooden lodge or whatever, and basically from there you can access your profiling of the different suspects. You can access your evidence board. You can also go back and listen to any audio recordings, TV, TV shows you found, upgrade your weapons and stuff like that. So basically there's like this, like they call it the mind place, and basically you hit select, and wherever you are in the game as Saga, you just immediately teleport to this area where you can access a variety of upgrade menus and things like that. And it loads incredibly fast. It's like the super cool effect that is like constantly running in the background of the game, no matter where you are in the story. Now that's how it kind of goes for Saga. For Alan, he has a very similar place, but it's called the writer's room. So anytime you're playing as Alan Wake, you can hit the select button or whatever your button of choice is, and you'll basically instantly teleport to Alan Wake's equivalent of the mind place, which is called the writer's room. And the cool thing about Alan Wake is that it's very much about, continues this idea that like the story he's writing is influencing the world around him, or he discovers parts of the story that end up becoming true in the real world. And Remedy decided this time around to have a lot more fun with the idea of the story influencing the world around you. So, and again, it was a scenario where when it was first introduced to me, I was incredibly confused, but I did eventually figure it out. So there are parts of the Alan Wake, there are key areas of the various levels that you play as Alan Wake, where you can actually completely change the environment through the story that Alan is writing. It's a super cool thing where you will be in, I'll just give you an example. There's a level that takes place in a movie theater, right? And as you're exploring the movie theater, you're unlocking different ways to influence and manipulate the environment. So one of the things that you can do is you can go to the main lobby of the movie theater, and in the writer's room, you can basically choose a thing that says, there's a cult that has taken over this movie theater. And when you do that, the environment changes all around you, and it basically applies this, basically a coat of paint, but it basically physically changes the environment to show that, oh, there was a cult that took over this movie theater. And then it can maybe unlock certain doors that you wouldn't have access to, or change certain things about the environment to navigate through. Or you can, go back to that same part of the movie theater, the lobby, and say, oh, this is the New York cops sold their souls to the devil. And then you can see what kind of happened if these corrupt New York cops influence the lobby of this movie theater. And you can do that in various parts of the level. So as you go through this movie theater, you might go to the parking lot, you might go to the projector room, you might go to the actual screening of the theater, and you can again pick and choose these different, you know, ways that you are interpreting the world as he writes the story, to solve various puzzles and unlock, you know, various resources and collectibles and all of that stuff. Super, super neat. But again, initially it presented itself and I was very, very confused. And at the start of the game, as I played as both Saga and Alan Wake, I thought to myself, man, getting through these levels is a fucking nightmare. Like, it is so confusing as to where I'm going and what I'm doing, because the map, you know, the map will tell you, you know, as Alan Wake, oh, there's points of interest here. You can influence this and this and this. But unless you have kind of dialed in, you know, what, these different realities are that you can, you know, pick from, you may not know, oh, I have to unlock this door using this reality, which then allows me to walk through to this area that needs to have this reality attached to it, and so on and so forth. It's really effective. It's really cool. It's such a fun way to change up the environments and always make it seem like you're just entering into these weird, you know, weird dimensions and weird, there's a level that takes place in a hotel, and it has some really, really cool stuff that you can kind of change and influence. So it is a lot of fun, but unfortunately, I just think it kind of presents itself a little confusing, at least at the start, which is why I've had to had like a little bit of a like a walkthrough. Shout out to IGN's walkthrough, very helpful for navigating at least those early parts of the game. Combat wise, you are still flashing your flashlight at enemies to stun them so that you can put bullets into them or use a flare or a flashbang grenade or whatever. But this time around, you can use your flashlight in the environments just to see and walk around without using your flashlight battery, which means that there is no worried, no, you know, kind of sense of danger in terms of, oh, fuck, I was trying to find, you know, my way through the dark, and now I don't have the flashlight to weaken the enemies. Though, unfortunately, that mechanic of stunning the enemies with light to hurt them is still part of the game. Graphics-wise, the game looks gorgeous. Like, it definitely is going for a much darker, disturbing, scarier, you know, presentation than the original game. But it's not just, you know, the dark, twisted stuff that is, you know, graphically impressive. The lighting looks really cool between the shadows, the reflections, the way that the sun breaks through, you know, different windows and corners of rooms and stuff like that. Really, really nice. You know, the way that you spend a decent amount of time in the forest, especially playing as Saga Anderson, and the way that you know, the sun will just, you know, go down, you know, and kind of get swallowed up by the trees as you progress further into a forest as day becomes night. Or if you know, in some cases missions end with it going from night to morning, and that stuff looks really gorgeous. The time of day stuff looks really, really gorgeous. The water reflections, it's just a gorgeous looking game. One of the prettiest video games I have ever played. But it's not just the technical wizardry of the lighting and the ray tracing and all of that stuff. Like any good Remedy game, they also shot a lot of video, a lot of real actors, full motion video stuff for the game. And like any good Remedy game, they found a lot of different ways to present that video. One of the best ways that they do it is by kind of superimposing the video onto the environment as you walk around it. So in some cases, it kind of feels like, and I know it sounds cliche and silly to say, but in some cases, it genuinely feels like you're playing a real live action movie in this game. The way that the environment sort of reflects on the video, kind of blends with the video that has been imposed onto the screen. It's not always for like huge moments of gameplay, but it is really cool to see like, oh, that's the actress that plays Saga Anderson, and Alan Wake is walking towards the video version of that actress coming at him and stuff like that. Super, super cool. Voice acting is tremendous. Obviously, we talked about James McCaffrey as Alex Casey. tremendous. Sam Lake doing some unbelievable. If an actor could chew the scenery without actually having any dialogue, um, that is what Sam Lake does. The faces that he makes, the insane like physical acting that Sam Lake does in this game is tremendous. The voice acting for Saga and for Alan is spectacular. The animations and the motion capture for all these characters, just fantastic, incredibly lifelike, just really gorgeous performances by all the characters in the game. There hasn't been a character like a main character or a side character or something where I was like, there's something wrong with this performance. It's not quite right, or they're phoning it in or whatever. Like it is like far and away, top to bottom, a tremendously acted game. There's no doubt about it. So I mean, the real shortcomings, at least at the start, are kind of navigating some of those environments and the combat not being so exciting. But I think when you put together such a gorgeous world, weird gorgeous world to explore, that's acted incredibly well and has such a, like, I was hooked on that story very, very early on. Like, to me, this, I don't know if I want to, like, maybe not counting some of the Max Payne games, Alan Wake 2 might be Remedy's best game. Like, it has such confidence, and I've never like criticized a Remedy game for having a lack of confidence, but they've done such a better job this time around of executing on their ideas, having their ideas be brilliant additions to the formula that we've known to expect from Remedy. Like, to me, this very well could be, I'm not done it yet, but this very well could be Remedy's best game. It is some shortcomings aside, it is a phenomenal video game. I'm going to definitely have it done before our end of the year award show next week. But I'm just blown away, man. I cannot wait to see what happens in that game. It is a fucking trip. Like, I've talked about how like the story is really cohesive, but it is definitely a mindfuck. Like, I don't know what to expect. I don't know all the ways they're going to incorporate, you know, the backstory of Alan Wake from Alan Wake 1. I don't quite know how they're going to incorporate the stuff from Control into that game just yet. Right. The fact that James McCaffrey voices a character that Sam Lake, appears as, like, it makes me wonder, like, is any of this real? Like, is any of this game real? Like, is this going to be like, at some point, am I going to be playing as Max Payne in this game? Because oh, joke's on you. Like, this character is like, I just don't know. I would love to speculate, but I'm choosing to try to speculate in an attempt to avoid spoiling what I know about that game so far. But it is fantastic. Again, I want to stress that, like, while I think Saga Anderson's character is meant to be the character that kind of catches people up to speed on what happened in Alan Wake 1, Remedy did say that you do not need to play Control or Alan Wake 1 or the AWE DLC from Control 1 in order to enjoy Alan Wake 2. And I think they're right. I think if you just want to get into Alan Wake 2 right now, you could probably skip everything else, Control and Alan Wake 1 related to get to Alan Wake 2. I just think that, like, Remedy has actually, their mad experiment of trying to connect Alan Wake 1 with Control to Alan Wake 2, their mad experiment has actually paid off. Like, I am genuinely incredibly glad that I played through Alan Wake 1 and Control, because I feel like, just in terms of the little Easter eggs and the references and the stuff that they've kind of talked about and alluded to, like, it has already paid off, at least twice over in terms of what I've gotten out of Alan Wake 2, having played through Control and Alan Wake 1. So Alan Wake 2 is just a tremendous video game. I can't wait to finish it. And I look forward to finishing it up and I will definitely have it done for next week, where we will talk about so many more things. But that's going to do it for the podcast. I'm going to try to, maybe pick up some more games as part of the Steam sale, the Epic Game sale. I'm not too sure, but we will have this is it. So we will have our Game of the Year podcast, same time, same place. I don't know if I'm going to do it live, but we will do our podcast next week, but it'll be the Game of the Year show. So come on back for that. And then our regularly, regular schmegular glitch report will be in not next week, but the week after. So we'll kick off the new year with hopefully some good news. That'd be nice. And maybe if I get a chance to play any more games during the Christmas winter holiday, we'll have more to say on that. But that's going to do for the podcast. I have been GnittWitt. You can find everything that I do over at my Linktree, linktree.com/GnittWitt, GnittWitt, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and so much more. I have been GnittWitt. Thank you so much for listening to Glitch Report. Go play Alan Wake 2. That's a fantastic game. And we'll see you all next week for Game of the Year. Take it easy.